Okay, so Yvonne Decker is an image consultant with the Signature Image, and I will let her take it away and give herself a brief introduction.
Good morning. I'm happy that you are all here. And as Heather said, I'm an image consultant, and I've been consulting for over 20 years. So I have a lot of experience in terms of appearance, business etiquette, and also communication skills.
Thank you. We have a couple of other people joining us. Lamont, would you like to give a brief introduction to yourself and your business?
Sure. I'm Lamont Johnson, a realtor with Remax Realty and Associates, the Matt Finance team.
Welcome, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Lupe.
How you doing, Yvonne?
I'm good. How are you?
Great.
Good. Good to see you. And we have Lupe.
I think we have, yeah, and Lupe, you need to unmute. Let's see if I can do that. Oh, she doesn't have audio. Okay.
Okay.
So we'll continue on. Yvonne, I'll let you get started.
Okay. So today we're going to be talking about business behaviors. So professional conduct and business etiquette. Okay, we have an, all right, so the first thing is first impressions. And here we're talking about how to gain credibility and to create a great first impression. So the elements of a good first impression are posture and stance, a smile, eye contact, and handshakes. So posture and stance, you want to walk and stand with rib cage lifted, head and neck and shoulders at a level and knees straight. I'm sorry, at shoulder level and knees straight. Rigid muscles and posture betray nervousness and rigid thinking. A relaxed walk and good posture project confidence. A balanced symmetry, body posture communicates harmony. Next is the smile. And I don't know if that's hidden, but you can see the eyes. I should have put that at the top. You see the eyes. So a genuine smile comes from the eyes. And, you know, I know that people have been saying because we're all wearing masks, that, you know, you can't tell when someone is smiling, but you actually can tell when someone is smiling because you see it around their eyes. And so typically you'd have the little crow's feet that form when someone is smiling. A simple smile is only seen around the mouth. So there again, when someone's wearing a mask, you can't quite tell she's smiling because it's around the mouth area and you can't see it. Next, we have eye contact. Eye contact is a very powerful indicator of liking. When you make eye contact with someone, it puts people at ease. And when you're speaking to people, you want to maintain at least 70% of eye contact when you're listening and speaking. And you want to sort of predominantly look at one eye as you're speaking with the person. So here is an example when there's no eye contact. It gives the appearance of the appearance of an uncaring attitude, disinterest, or boredom. mean, I've been in meetings where I've seen people, you know, doing stuff like this. Um, and the other thing is when you don't make eye contact, you know, shifty eyes or looking away betray uncertainty, and as well as a lack of interest. So a shift in eye contact with a slight shift in body posture can significantly signify discomfort or fear of not knowing the answer. So next we have the role of eye contact, and that role is to create rapport. So here's an old picture, and so I asked the question, are these two men friends? And what is the feeling you detect between them? And if you want to answer anything, you can also put it in the chat. It sort of looks like they're kind of enemies. But actually, they're toasting each other with no smile, which is a bit of a lack of trust is apparent here. But you know, when you have presidents and prime ministers and people like that, they are, look, even though they may not necessarily be friends, but they both have mutual self-interest. And so you do what's best for the interests of your country in this case. Now, handshakes and body contact. So building rapport with the handshake. Maintain steady eye contact when you meet somebody. You can smile with the eyes. Arms are comfortably bent. And your hands, this should be an equal distance from each other. Grip is firm but not aggressive. So good handshakes. You flatten your palm against the other. Keep the web upright. Always turn the hand down, or don't turn the hand down or sideways. Keep your hands dry and warm. Pump 1 to 2 times. Now, here are some examples of handshakes that females tend to do. And I'm sure you've all had this happen. And usually the limp fish is something that women do. They tend to take the, you know, the fingers, and it denotes non-professionalism. You want to keep your head level, stand straight, don't curtsy, bow, or bob. You know, don't cup your hand or tip it forward. Give the whole hand, not just the fingers or the tip. So more so in this picture here is a good illustration. Next, this is called the pastoral handshake or politician's handshake. And so it's a favorite for politicians and ministers. They take the whole hand and they cover your hand, and it signifies caring and old friendship. And then also it can be considered as patronizing in business. If an older man uses it with a younger woman, for example, it feels patronizing. And that's why it's called a politician handshake, because, you know, a lot of times politicians are trying to put on a good face, and, you know, when they're out meeting their constituents, and they give that handshake like, you know, I care for you, which may not always be the real face, but okay. And then of course the woman can also cover his hand as well. Okay, avoid twisting the hand over to the left or right, seen as a male display of dominance. Sometimes when, you know, I've had, you know, people do that to me where they're twisting your arm, your hand over. Okay, now here are some things that are typically male handshakes. The bone crusher. I've gotten the bone crusher. Yes, you know, it's not fun. So a strong handshake denotes confidence, but women fear the bone crusher. Men should fear the bone crusher too. Then the next one you have is the arm tackle, where you've seen that. That's usually with men, but I've had men hold my arm, you know, when they're shaking your hand, which I suppose is a good thing because it says that it is used to convey friendship and mutual power. So I suppose if a man, you know, shakes your hand like that, he considers that you both have mutual power. Okay, so it is considered more polite to stand when you're shaking hands. However, if you're in a confined or crowded space, it's just enough to just lift slightly from your seat to shake a person's hand, because otherwise it's inconvenient to get up when it's crowded or a tight spot. So that was what we were just talking about. Okay, and then another thing is the chin graze and ear kiss. You'll see people, you know, do not really a hug, but, you know, sort of a fake kiss and, you know, rub faces. So this is considered acceptable among old colleagues and friends. And in the US, and we'll mention this a little bit later on, but in the US, one side in the US and in Latin America, two sides. And in the UK, I'm sorry, in the US and Latin America, it's one side. In the UK, two sides. And then in France, two or three. And you've seen people, you know, French, or in, yeah, kiss one another a few times back and forth. Okay, business introductions. Okay, we have a little bit of a quiz that you don't have to answer. If you want to, you can put something in the chat, but introductions. So who introduces who to whom? Okay. Where does the name tag go? Right or left? Do I stand up for all introductions? What do I do if someone barges into a conversation? Okay, let's get to that. Eye contact and introductions. So to avoid confusion, offer your hand when both names have been mentioned and eye contact has been established. Now, in group introductions, when all ranks are equal, the handshake is directed by the eye contact. So as you approach the group, don't scan the room, but focus on one person. Once eye contact is established, offer your hand and repeat your name if necessary. For convenience, start with the person closest to you and then work your way around. Less formal group introductions. You want to start with the person who's standing nearest to you and go through the line regardless of rank. Say a few words to each person. If no one is introducing you, state your name. If you forget a familiar name, say so politely and immediately. Now, networking. What would you do if someone you know approaches and interrupts your conversation? One, would you address your new friend leaving the conversation? Or would you turn to the new person and introduce him or her immediately? The third one is, would you include the person who comes into your space with eye contact and a smile without leaving the first conversation? Then at an appropriate moment, include her in the conversation. 1, 2, or 3. We will move on. And we'll come to that. So crossed arms in a conversation. The woman on the left doesn't seem to be part of the conversation. She's just standing back with her arms folded and just sort of standing there. And then this one down here, judging from the woman's body language, the young man doesn't seem to be taking the conversation seriously. You know, she looks like she's really trying to make a point. He has his arms folded and he's sort of got a bit of a chuckle going. A lot of times I say as an image consultant, it's best to reserve judgment when you see something like this because you're not fully sure what's going on. And so there are other indicators that would really tell us if he wasn't taking her seriously. Okay, your purpose in networking is to meet and greet other professionals and make useful contacts. Your intention should not be to sell directly. You want to ask questions and find out about the services of others and to see if the person is a good fit for, you know, for you or for someone else you know. Be prepared with your 10 to 20-second statement and expand when appropriate. And if people are interested, make an appointment for a later date to arrange a follow-up call. Now, when you're networking, you want to place your name and tag high on the right lapel. The reason you want your name tag on this side is because when you reach out to shake the other person's hand, their name tag is on the right. So as you shake their hand, your gaze travels up the right arm and you take in their name. And then you quickly transfer your gaze to their eyes. And this way you don't have to go across the body to try to find, to try to find their name. This way it's all smooth. Shake hands, your eyes travel up to the nameplate and then immediately up to the person's eyes. Remembering names. Use tactics to remember someone's name when you're introduced. For example, Gary or a green tie. Mentally write their name across their forehead. If you forget someone's name, just say, I can't remember anything about you. I can remember anything about you except your name, or I apologize, I just forgot your name. If you are the introduced party, say your name automatically and never expect someone to remember your name. If you forget a name, ask. If you forget it the second time, ask the host for what the person's name is. Okay, so who is introduced to whom? In business, the most important person is introduced first. Socially, the woman is introduced to the man. So remember, say the most important person's name first. Mr. Andrews, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Johnson. Or Heather, I would like to introduce you to, I was just going to find someone's name to Susan. Acceptable phrases include, Miss Smith, I'd like you to meet, or Miss Smith, may I introduce you to? So that is the person who has the higher rank. And I hate to use important person. I really hate to use important person because everybody's important. But typically what we mean here is the person with the higher rank. Okay, and then, so as you're introducing the person, you might want to include a sentence that links the two together, that where they have some mutual interest to get the conversation going. Okay, so when you're at a networking event, you want to work the room. You want to take on the role of a host. You want to take the initiative to introduce people you know or have just met to others. Stay at least 10 minutes before moving on. If there is interest from the other party, ask for a time to phone after the event. And so after all, the purpose of being there is to get to know people, make connections so that you could possibly do business with one another. Okay, and when you're in the networking meeting, you want to keep your hands away from your face, head, and mouth. Relax your arms by your side. Keep cards handy, but not in a deep bag. Avoid the head, cocking your head when speaking. Avoid scanning the room. Listen intently. I think we've all probably been in a situation where we're talking to someone and they're looking all over the room. It makes the person feel that they're not really interested in talking to you, that they're looking for someone else to speak to. So it's better to maintain that eye contact with that person, spend a little time, and then you can exit and go on to someone else. Okay, and then avoid playing with your hair or texting while you're, and of course, this is in-person networking, and hopefully we'll be able to get back to that soon. So in preparation for it. Okay, so to include a newcomer to the group. So if deep in conversation, acknowledge the newcomer with a smile or a light touch on the forearm without leaving the conversation. Then at an appropriate break in the conversation, introduce the person to the people that you're speaking with. Avoid turning and leaving the first conversation to greet the newcomer, as it could cause offense. Okay, so you want to, as we had in the quiz earlier, you don't want to leave the conversation. You want to invite the newcomer in, because when you're in a networking situation, every conversation is open to join that conversation. The only time you may not feel comfortable joining a conversation is if you might have 2 or 3 people huddled together and they may be speaking about something private. And because of the way that they're standing, the body language is telling you that they're not open to having other people join the conversation. So you might want to move on to another conversation. But if you aren't having a private conversation, then remember to have a little bit of distance so that people feel comfortable approaching and joining the conversation. Okay, if you meet an old acquaintance, remember past conversations and refer to them when you come across an old acquaintance at a meeting. Be interested in their lives and their hobbies. Find out who has a baby or promotion, names of spouses and children, and refer to them. Be ready with interesting anecdotes about yourself and the interest of the art of conversation. Okay, your elevator statement. Your name, title, name of your company. A succinct short list of what you provide, and if time allows, who your target customer is, the benefits of your services or products, and then you can give a short example of how you solve the problem. So the purpose of your elevator statement is to generate interest in a very short amount of time. And again, you want to be succinct with a 10 or 20-second statement. Sometimes you can do a 30-second and then expand on it when it's appropriate. So you want to have your short one-liner, basically, and then you can do another 2 or 3 sentences if you're asked to expand on what it is that you do. If people are interested, make an appointment for a later date or arrange for a follow-up call. Now, here's something that's important when you're in those networking groups and you want to have an exit strategy. So you want to control the close, so to speak. So I'm extremely interested in your project. May I call you tomorrow at 10 a.m.? Another thing you could say, please excuse me, I have just seen someone I have been trying to contact. Exchange cards, thank them for their time, and move on. Okay, cultural differences. I didn't put, I just had a few things I wanted to comment on in terms of cultural differences. So for example, if you're doing business in Japan, and I have sent an email to someone in one of the cities in Japan asking for Zoom etiquette. For example, if people will be meeting over Zoom, you know, during this time we're in the pandemic. And so I haven't gotten that information back yet, but you know, in Japan, politeness is very key to that culture, and it's connected with respect. When you receive a business card, it will be, so here's an example. So when someone gives you their business card in Japan, they will present it to you like this, with the writing turned toward you. Okay, and when you receive it, you receive it with both hands on the other corner. And that's considered good manners and politeness in the Japanese culture. Another thing is they like to see you showing an interest. For example, just taking a lot of notes at a meeting and asking questions shows your business partner that you are interested in them and it will be appreciated by them. In Japan, as you know, they bow. But when you meet someone, wait to see what they will do. They don't typically shake hands, but they might. So wait, if they bow, then you bow and you keep your eyes up. If they extend their hand, then it's okay to shake hands. And another thing, reliability builds trust with the Japanese, so you always want to be on time. Now, in France, formality is highly regarded. And for example, when you shake hands, you want it to be brisk and light. The American handshake of a firm grip, 2 or 3 pumps, will make a French person feel overpowered and inferior. So you need to have a brisk, light handshake with 1 or 2 pumps. And let's see. Oh yes, and in France, expect interruptions. They like to they like to have conversation and interrupt, and they want your opinion, and you need to have a strong, firm opinion as well. Another thing is you want to keep your professional life and your personal life separate when you're doing business in France. And when you introduce yourself, always use your last name. And another thing is they tend to vacation in August, July and August. So August might be a month where they're shut down. A lot of people are shut down for business. Okay. One more country I have is India. Punctuality is considered rude in India. So this is why cultural differences are very, very interesting, because what works in one country is not how it works in another country. So punctuality is considered rude, and expect the meeting to start about half an hour late. And it is okay to ask questions about family, and they will ask you questions about your family as well, because they want to get to know you before you do business. In Japan, France, and in India, dress is conservative, except in India, there are some startups and IT people who do dress less conservatively. But just to be on the safe side, you might want to be conservative until you get to know them a little bit better. Now, one of the other things about the Indian culture is negotiations. They love to negotiate. And when one of your business partners feel as if they have made, when they feel they've made a really good negotiation, which means in substance and in the price, they can go back and tell their superiors, and it is seen as them being very good in business and very good in negotiations. They want to, so when you are negotiating, you want to leave room in terms of your price. You want to leave room to be able to make those negotiations, because they will want to keep going back and forth until they can settle on a price. And then if your company has a strict policy or no room for negotiations, then you may appear to be inflexible and not a very good business partner. Okay. So that's what I have. I have lots of other cultures, but I'm going to end it there.
All right. Thank you, Yvonne. Does anyone have any questions at this point for Yvonne on what she's presented, whether it's networking? Lamont?
Yeah, I had a question about the handshakes. Are you
Yes.
shaking hands through COVID, or is there a good substitute for that, or how are you going about that?
Well, what I have done when I've met people, of course, they have my mask, and basically we're doing the elbow.
The elbow bump.
Elbow bump,
Yeah.
yes.
Right.
I do too.
Yes, that's what I've been doing. Yeah. So of course these are out of COVID, and I should have included some other things, you know, in terms of COVID. Um yes, so yeah, definitely the arm bump and staying your distance and wearing your mask. And I've been doing a lot of Zoom meetings, and so right now I enjoy doing the Zoom meetings because you know, it's just easier and safer.
How
Any
did
other?
you get started in business etiquette? I know you've been doing it for 20 years, but what made you want to get started in it? Did you go to school for it or?
Yes, I did have training. I trained as an image consultant, received certification, and you know, m- just a tiny bit of my story is when I was younger, I was sort of quiet and I liked to read books and so forth, but it didn't feel like I fit in. You know, I always felt like I was on the perimeter of the popular girls. And so I never really quite fit in. And people would, you know, kids make fun of you know, call you names and stuff like that. They're merciless. and and so you know, just from various things, I decided that I wanted to learn all of the things that involved image, that involved your appearance, visual impact, how people perceive you, what behaviors you have, what's appropriate in business and in being with other people, and in communication skills. Because when I was younger, I was also very afraid to talk. And my knees would shake if I had to stand up to tell someone my name. And I heard something the other day from someone. They said your greatest fear is your greatest platform. And I love that because I had a fear of speaking. And so now I speak. I'm still trying to do this online speaking because it's really different from speaking in public. I've spoken in front of thousands, hundreds of people, and I felt very relaxed with that. But when you can see yourself, you know, on camera, it's a little different.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? If you want to, I know Lupe, you're having audio problems. If you want to pose a question, you can type it in the chat if you'd like. So if there aren't any other questions, I just want to thank Yvonne for presenting today. Follow her at the Signature Image on Facebook. She's everywhere. She's on Instagram. She's also on LinkedIn. And I have included a link to our next training sessions through the SBDC in the chat. So if you're interested in taking a look, our next presentation next week is reimagining your marketing in a post-COVID landscape. And that will be presented by Emily Hartzog from Chartwell Agency. That's a local advertising agency in town. And that will be next Thursday at 11 a.m. So if there aren't any other questions.
I can stop share right now.
Yep, thank you. I'd like to thank you all for attending, and be sure to check out our next virtual classrooms. We'll be announcing some more for April as well.
Okay.
So with that, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Have a
Thanks.
great day.
Thank you. You too. So nice to meet you all. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye, Yvonne.
Bye-bye, Heather.
Thank you so much.